The most proud moments I have are when we have been able to come through a lot of turmoil and make the right decision around saving the arts. This Performing Arts Center, the Cope Gillette Theater, and those are proud moments. Getting the Shack Center sited. They seemed at the time insurmountable, and for some people it seemed too expensive, but when you look back on it, it was not insurmountable. It was easy, and the cost has paid off in, multiple times over in the wealth and treasures of our community.
A little later in my childhood, my mom ran for city council, where she would go on to serve for the next 2 decades and do so much for the local art in Everett. And to most, many of my mom's achievements on council may have looked effortless or perfectly orchestrated, but I am lucky to have been privy to the sheer force of will and just relentless effort that my mom imposes on challenges in order to make the world and city around her sparkle. She displays this in every aspect of her life, and I'm really the luckiest son to have someone like that to look up to.
I was on the board of the management company that was managing this theater before Village Theater came to town. We would put on a series of performances every year, and the finances were simply not working, and we could see that. And so at that time we decided that we would go and chat with our city council members and the mayor and find out if they could give us more money or help us in some way to make the financial deal here work better. And we met with them and were told, no, there's no money for that. Our contract was up soon, and at that time it was our understanding that the city council was inclined just to close the building and wait and see what happens. Maybe some other user would come use it or something like that. So we got really busy at that time and met with the Mayor Ed Hansen at the time, and convinced him that the city should hire some consultants that could help figure out what kind of business model would work in this building.
Brenda, I think, was instrumental in having the process be the organized process that allowed this kind of a sort of out-of-the-box solution to occur, because she had been a management consultant, and so she helped find, I think, Arthur Anderson to come in and do the project, and they brought Laney in to do the evaluation. And after a lot of, they went out with surveys to the audience, and they did a lot of work to arrive at, well, what would be good and what does the audience want? Turns out the audience wanted musical theater, and that's what we do.
Because of my experience here with the Performing Arts Center and my experience with the council members at the time, I realized we didn't have anybody on the council that had a connection or an acknowledgement of the value of arts and culture. And so I was like, well, maybe we need different representation. It was really, it was very close to, that council was very close to closing this building down. And so I decided, well, I can do it. And so I just ran for council and was there for 20 years. It was good that I was on council at that time. And of course we had Marion Krell, who was kind of an original arts patron in our community, and she was on council as well. So this great idea that was brought forward, I think by Laney McMullen, who had this idea. She was working with the Shack board and decided, she was the economic development director for the city. And so they had this idea that they were kind of copying from another community that had built low-income housing with an arts component to it, which was a great idea.
Way back in 1999, we had a feasibility study to build our own building. And that study said we needed partnerships, strong partnerships. And so that was one of the first things that we did. We went to the city, talked to the city. We walked away with a partnership with ArtSpace and the city of Everett. And in order to make that happen, we needed to have the city council also believe in this partnership.
They needed space, and one of the identified spaces was a parking garage that the city owned downtown. So they were looking for support from the council to use this parking garage. And that, parking's always a tricky issue on councils. And so a lot of people were like, why would we get rid of parking? It's, it's expensive. But it was pretty underutilized at that time.
Brenda was on board from the get-go and really saw how the arts transforms neighborhoods. And at the time, our block of Hoyt was rough. And so we worked with her on this project. She worked with her other council members. She also worked with the committee on how we could put this whole thing together financially. So she did a lot of it was in the background, but without her help, it may not have happened.
So it was very good collaborative effort, and I think we ended up with full council supporting it in the end.
My mom isn't an actor, nor musician, nor painter, but she is equally as creative and an artist of bringing people together and making things happen and making magic happen.
So when the Key Bank building became available, there was a group of developers downtown that had tried to convince the city that we should buy the property, raise the building, and build a parking garage there. That was the plan, but the building is so unique and kind of a lovely specimen of a building. I think it has historic merit, so the historical commission was kind of weighing in like that battle was either happening or had just been lost. So people were reeling about the loss of historical buildings in our community. The late Drew Nielsen, who was on the council at the time, and I decided, we need to save this building. How can we get this done? And started working with other council members. And at one point we had 3 votes, but of course you need 4. We eventually convinced somebody to vote for it, to buy the property. Of course, council members change. New council members came in, and then they did not want to do the project, so they weren't willing to vote for the project. The city owned it, and it, the vision was there, but we were having a hard time getting that vision shared with the new council members, and so it was a lot. There were a lot of hard-fought battles in getting that done.
And that battle was really to have the arts in Everett. The arts were not valued in the way that they, judgment of many of us, need to be. Because I knew that arts were not just valuable in their own right, which they are, but they're also valuable for economic development.
It's a great asset in our community now, and the Kids Stage program just makes it alive at all times. So I just love this whole plaza area.
Village Theater rents the building and puts on the programming there. I think that the park that was done after that has worked really well for the city, and it's just a great gathering place. And it's really fun, especially when there's 2 performances, one in each space. It's very active here.
Art is essential in a city for so many reasons. Obviously, it's fun to drive around and see it ourselves, and we enjoy the same experience that I get in my home when I look at a piece of art. But we also know from facts and statistics that cities that have art have a higher level of economic development. It's also vital for people who live here. You see people out walking their pets around, and I've seen people sit, kind of giving the Mike Jordan statue a hug. So you just see that people are interacting with that art. So we just have to have it. It's important, and cities that invest in it are, better in the long run.